Hi, I'm Kathy Lindsay, and welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 program allows you, the voters, to hear directly from our candidates. We've gathered questions from the community, and now we get to hear from the candidates their views on issues that are important to us. This is all leading up to the primary election, which is on May 17th. Today's guest is Kelly Dycus, and she is a candidate for Magistrate of the 3rd District of Franklin County. This seat is currently held by Michael Mueller, but he's not running for that seat again because he is currently running for County Judge Executive. Kelly, thanks for taking time to come in and see us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we appreciate your time and being here, and I just thought maybe we'd start out, because you're a new candidate, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you've chosen to run.
So it's kind of a funny story. I was on vacation and got a phone call. And evidently a few people decided I should run. And I was like, why? I'm an advocate. I'm not a politician, for certain. And once we got done with the conversation, I was like, okay, I've really got to think about this, because Franklin County, as every county in the state of Kentucky, is having a huge problem with mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and it's my passion. We haven't had anybody else on the court, as far as I know, that knows much about those things. I've worked in homeless services. I ran a very large statewide AmeriCorps program. I've done lots of things like that, and so I've seen firsthand the problems that we have that most people don't see. It's kind of hidden behind the scenes. But I get to hear these stories every day, and I think with the opioid money that we're supposed to be getting, I think we need somebody with a mental health background on the court.
Okay.
So,
well, for our viewers who may not know, maybe they may not know if they're even in the 3rd District. So what area does that cover?
So it covers the Forks of Elkhorn.
Okay.
It covers both Silver Lakes. Green, what is that? Is it Green Hill? Something. It's the little neighborhood that's right next to Eastover, Westover,
Okay.
that area off of East Main. Indian Hills, Disher Estates, all of Shinkle Lane pretty much, and all the little neighborhoods that are off of Shinkle Lane.
I see.
Yeah.
So inevitably, as I said, Michael Mueller's not running for this seat again, so there's
Right.
going to be a newcomer to this
Right.
seat. So what do you feel is the advantages to having new blood on the court?
Well, I think we need some new ideas and possibly some new perspective on things. I think when people are in government for so long, they get used to kind of the games, and they get used to just kind of taking things for granted, I think. And I think newcomers are really, really important, just for a change of perspective and ideas.
Okay. What is the biggest issue facing the fiscal court that you see right now in our current environment? And if elected, do you have some ideas of how you would address that issue?
I've watched lots of the meetings, but I'm not a part of that, so I don't know that I can answer that well. I think there is a lot of just differences of opinion about some pretty big things right now. One of those being Lakeview Park, I think. And I think learning to communicate and having people that are willing to communicate and work together is the most important thing we can do.
Yeah. So we're going to get to Lakeview Park, because
Yeah,
I have several questions about that.
I'm sure.
But first, let me just ask you, being on the fiscal court means that organizations are going to be coming to you asking
Yes.
for money for projects. And, that can range from, needs for the homeless, the Humane Society, the schools, broadband expansion, infrastructure, et cetera, things like that. So as a member of the fiscal court, how will you handle those requests? And what are your priorities for investments in our community?
I think we have sincerely, and I've worked with almost all of them, the best nonprofits around. We have some phenomenal services in this town, and they need help. They always need help. Nonprofits are hard to fund. So I think that making those decisions is difficult because we only have so much money available. I think it's really important, and something I learned working in a nonprofit and running a very large program with federal funds, is that you have to pay attention to how that money is spent. And I think the people that run the nonprofits have to really understand what that investment's going to be, where they're going to put that money, and what the need is. And I think sometimes we don't ask the questions that really matter. How's this going to end up? What's going to happen with this client after they receive these services? What's the outcome of this? So I think that's really important. I don't remember what else you asked me.
Are there particular priorities that you have that you recognize a need in our community for?
So, as I said before, I think mental health and substance abuse stuff is so important. It's not just important for the people that are having difficulties, but it's really important to our community, because I sincerely believe everybody has something they're supposed to be doing in a way that they can be giving back to the community. And I think that a lot of times the shame that goes along with mental health disorders and substance abuse disorders keeps people kind of in the shadows.
Yeah.
And they have gifts. We need them. We need them in this community. And when they are struggling, that's hard to do. They don't feel very engaged, and we need for them to be engaged. So one of the projects that I love is Yes Arts. I don't know how much you know about that, but it's a beautiful program. Elle is phenomenal. I've been down there painting the building, and we've had a great time, and I've gotten to talk to people that are down there volunteering, and I think it's going to be one of the best things we've ever done in this community, sincerely. They're going to have a substance abuse program, people that are in recovery doing art, which I know as a therapist works really well. So that's definitely one of my pet projects. I love it. The other one, I'm on the board of the Sunshine Center, and I love the Sunshine Center, and so I love our parenting classes. People that have been involved in the court system get to come there and see their children. We have therapy there. We have a child therapist, which I used to be, and an adult therapist. So anyone who's ever been through any kind of trauma can go there. It's for abuse and neglect, and it's important. So those are two of my favorites. I love the Franklin County Women's Shelter. Kim and Janet are fantastic, and they're doing some really great things. So there's a lot.
Okay. Well, earlier you mentioned Lakeview Park. So in our community, we have City Parks Master Plan, and then the county's Lakeview Park Master Plan.
Yes.
How do you feel about merging the two parks departments for better efficiencies or use of funds?
That's a really good question, and I've actually been talking to people in my own district about that a little bit, and I think there's a lot to be said on both sides. I don't know that I have a real strong opinion on that at this point. I think there's more I need to understand and know. However, I will say that the city and county have to work together on these projects. I just don't think there's any other way to make this work well. People in the city pay county taxes. I mean, they should have a say in what's going on. And I feel like, especially with that park, maybe that didn't happen in the way it should have or could have. It could have been done better, maybe.
So are you familiar with the plan for Lakeview?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it something that you support?
Not the way it looks right now.
Okay.
Not really. Yeah.
So do you have ideas? I think the question now is specifically how it should be paid for, because it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. It is a huge, the budget for that place is incredibly large. I don't think at this point we have the tax base to cover that.
Right. Does that mean issuing a new tax?
We have to do something, and I don't think anybody wants another tax. So, we don't have a funding source for that park, really. I guess at this point, what they're hoping is that, people from other districts will come in, other communities will come in and use this park. We don't know that, though. We have Lexington, we have Louisville, we have other places where tournaments are held and all of that. And I'm not saying it won't happen. I just don't think that we know yet.
Yeah. So what do you believe that we need in our parks here?
It doesn't matter what I believe. It just doesn't make any difference. As a grandmother, I love Lakeview Park. It's green space. We get to go walk. We get to go play on the splash pad. You know, he plays soccer there. Like, we do lots of things there. I would hate to see that giant building go up there, just as a grandmother. But again, it's not about me. And I've talked to a lot of people in my district, and they're not very happy about the current plan, because I think everybody's understanding is that, you know, through the week, Frankfort people can use it. On the weekend, if we have tournaments and, you know, other hundreds of people coming in, we're not going to get to use our own park on the weekends, I'm afraid. And I think that's a problem. It's a community park.
Okay.
And so we have to decide, do we want, like, you know, a regional park, or do we want a community park? This is going to make it a regional park. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So I think it needs more thought, and I think we need to talk to more people.
Okay, I appreciate that. We're going to move on and talk a little bit about economic development and growth here in our community. So how would you define economic development?
That's a question. Well, I'm not an economist for certain. I mean, I think when you say that to me, what it means is just growth, like growing our community and helping the businesses that we have thrive, bringing in new business, hopefully. You know, that's what it makes me think of.
Sure. For a while now, we've been hearing about comprehensive plan, strategic planning, and all the plans. And planning is critical.
It is.
For success,
Absolutely,
for
yes.
sure. But what actions would you propose to support to create family-sustaining wage jobs here in our community? And that is really what people think as economic development is producing those jobs.
Yes. Where people can make a living wage.
Absolutely.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard in small towns in particular. We have some fantastic small businesses here, but it's I know as a small business owner how difficult it is to make ends meet. If you don't have a good month or something, how do you pay your employees? I don't know what the answer to that is, really. I think bringing more people into the community is important. I think, you know, just getting the word out, having more people understand what we do here and what wonderful little businesses we have. I'm not a big box store person. I don't love them. I don't think they pay enough. I think they make huge profits and they don't give back enough. But I don't know what the answer to that is, and that's something that I would work on for certain. And I'd like to hear people's opinions on.
Sure. So as part of this economic development and growth, we have an organization called the Kentucky Capital Development Corporation. So what do you see as the role of that organization to fit into the vision of our economic growth here in Frankfort?
I don't know enough about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really don't. It's not something I've dealt with before.
Okay. Currently, the fiscal court, they contribute a certain amount of money to that organization to keep it running and to pay the people and all of that. So can you say if you would support to continue funding that?
I mean, I would have to look at it. I have to have facts.
Okay.
I think looking at what they do and how they do it, and I have pretty firm beliefs on those things.
Okay.
You know, I would want to know how it's run and how efficient it is.
Okay.
I do think that, I mean, this community needs help like that.
Right.
I just don't know much about that particular organization.
Okay. Well, then, similar question about Downtown Frankfort, Inc. They also, you know, have a role as far as servicing our businesses downtown. So is funding that something? They also get funds.
They do.
Yeah.
And I do know a little bit about them just because I work downtown and deal with things downtown a lot. I love downtown Frankfort. I think it's wonderful, great organization, and they've brought in, you know, just the, you know, a few years ago when we brought in the music to the Old Capitol lawn. I mean, it brings people in. It does. It's a wonderful way to get people out and looking at our businesses, and that we need to be doing more of that. we have one of the most, it's my belief that we have one of the prettiest towns around, and we've got the water, and we've got so many things here that people don't know anything about, and we've got to get that word out. So if you know, those organizations can do that, then yes, I think they're valuable.
Okay. Right now, a big issue with the fiscal court and the community is the expansion of Buffalo Trace. They have proposed expansion into the Peaks Mill area, and that has, you know, people have concerns about that. So are you in favor of allowing Buffalo, the bourbon warehouses to be built in the agricultural and rural residence areas of Franklin County? And if so, explain why.
I've thought a lot about this one recently, and I don't know that I've come up with a conclusion at this point. However, in just reading people's opinions in the paper and on Facebook and all, you know, everybody's got an opinion about it, and they feel strongly about it. And I think both sides have, you know, really great arguments. I think I would want to know how many jobs it's going to bring. As far as I can tell, it's just warehousing. So I don't know how many jobs that will bring. I would want to know that. I think a lot of what I've seen people say is, we don't want more of that stuff on our cars and our houses and all that, except that's not going to happen with warehousing, I don't think. So I'm not sure that's a great argument.
You're talking about the black fungus.
The black fungus, yes. Oh, yeah. And I get it. I mean, I get people don't want that on their cars, and they don't. But also, Buffalo Trace does a lot for this community and brings in a lot of money and a lot of jobs, and good paying jobs, which we don't have enough of. So it's, you know, it's a difficult one. All of these issues are difficult. There is no one right answer, I don't think. And I think that's part of the planning that needs to happen. We need to really look at the facts and the numbers and see if they work out. You know, if it's worth using that green space, if it's worth the people that living out there not being happy about it.
So where do you draw the line at that, though? What are those stipulations and those limitations as far as compromising, I guess? And I ask that because, you know, we're at a point here in our community where it's not only Buffalo Trace, but other expansions and developments that are affecting what some people would say it boils down to development versus preservation of our land and space.
Absolutely.
So, you know, how do you determine which is more important?
I think the people have to determine that. I don't, you know, I mean, for me, you know, part of the reason that I'm running is I don't think people are heard. I don't think we listen enough. And so it's really important to me to get out there and talk to people and see how they're feeling about things and, you know, get their perspective, because I don't live in Peaks Mill. You know, I don't live there, but there are people that do and people that feel very strongly about this. Also, we have to have, if we're going to keep our kids in this community and bringing their kids here and raising their kids here, we've got to have some growth. So we have to compromise. I mean, we just do. So I think for me, if it's going to harm people, for me, that's always a no. If we're going to harm people, then we don't, that's not the growth we need. I don't know that that's going to do this, and I would want more information about it to make certain that that's, you know, that's not going to happen.
Okay. What does the term smart growth mean to you?
Exactly what we just talked about. The growth that comes from planning and paying attention to what people in this county want. You know, paying attention to what we bring in here. Is it going to raise enough money? Are we going to, you know, is this business going to pay people well? Is it worth taking up the green space? You know, we have to make those decisions, and they're not easy, but there are ways to make them. Smarter ways to make them, I think. I think what happens is people get very emotional about this stuff, and I totally get it. I feel a little emotional about, you know, the park, so I understand it. But I think we have to take that out of it and really look at numbers and really look at the pros and cons and how it's going to affect our families.
So in addition to what we have discussed, we also have a lot of empty store spaces
Yes, we
and
do.
shopping centers. And, we talk about these developments that are what some would consider sprawl.
Yes.
So how would you address the need to infill in our community?
So it's one of my pet peeves. I cannot stand all of these buildings sitting empty because we know what happens when they sit empty. I mean, people go in and do things that they shouldn't be doing in there. They tear them up. The windows get broken out. They look terrible. And we've all been through towns where that's just what it is. Just all these buildings are just empty, and it's so sad. I think we don't place enough of that on the owners of the buildings. I think you should not just be able to leave a building sitting empty that way. I don't understand it. I've never understood it. We need to be using these buildings. We have them.
Right.
Put some money into the buildings so they look nice again and people aren't dealing drugs out of them, and we're not, it doesn't make any sense that we're not doing something with these. We just continuously build new ones. Well, they're pretty, but we could spend that money on these other buildings and not use up all of our green space.
What do you see as the top concerns, particularly from businesses in our community, that the fiscal court could address?
I don't know. I think what I've heard recently, because of COVID, everybody's lost money. I think coming up with ways to advertise what we do and the beauty of Franklin County and just bringing more people in here would be really helpful. And I don't honestly know how helpful fiscal court is with that right now.
Well, over the past few years, it's become apparent that we need to depend less on state government and to put more focus on the private sector and bringing new businesses here and entrepreneurs. So we need to be thinking of ways that we can incentivize more businesses. So what is your vision for improving the business climate in Franklin County, and how can we become more competitive with our surrounding counties?
That's a huge question.
It is.
I mean, it's a really big question. And I'm not an economist.
Yeah.
I think there are things we can do with taxes. I think there are ways to draw business in. I think we need a little more infrastructure. I know that when, I was trying to bring lots of people in to train them, they're really I had to put them in 5 different hotels. I mean, we were just sprawled out all over the place. I've never understood why we don't have more business on the water. I don't get that. I would love to have a restaurant that's a decent restaurant right on the water where you're out there looking at it. I think we can do lots of things to bring business in. Most people would say taxes, I'm sure, cut tax for these businesses. And I don't have a problem with that as long as we're getting something back. We're getting a return for that. And I don't know that we always do.
Right. So once we get these businesses here, then an issue that is not only happening here locally, but nationwide is workforce. It's hard to get people to come fill these jobs. So what is it, if anything, that local government can do to grow the size and skill of our workforce?
I think that's the most important thing we can do. And it is something that I focus on a lot because I see a lot of teenagers and a lot of 20-somethings in my office. And what I hear all the time is, I don't really want to go to a 4-year college. I can't afford to do that. But if I don't do that, how do I get a decent job? Because I don't have any skills. And they're exactly right. They don't, and they shouldn't. They're young people. They wouldn't know. Not all of them are meant for college. That's okay. We need some job training programs in the worst kind of way. I think it is the best thing we could do. When I ran the AmeriCorps program, I trained case managers and construction assistants. And so, so many of them, probably 60% of them, ended up being social workers and therapists and, opening their own construction businesses. And that's just a pretty small compared to a lot of programs, but still statewide. And we had 60 people a year. They got to give back. They got to shadow people that were doing that work. They got to learn how to do the work. They felt good about what they were doing. And it didn't require them to go to college for 4 years. They got to go try it before they ever went to college if they wanted to. Kids don't know what they want to do until they try it. I think if we had some job shadowing situations going on, that would be helpful. But also just training. We need training so badly here. So badly.
Okay. Well, I have one more question for you, and then I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, okay.
Are there any decisions or steps the fiscal court has taken, looking back now, that you would have done differently as a magistrate?
Lakeview Park. It's my pet peeve at the moment, so it's the only thing I can think about. I think always, city and county, we need to be talking to people more than we're talking to them. I think, we get in these positions and we forget that we're there not for us. We're there for the people in our districts, and we're not listening to them. It was so apparent when I watched the Zoom meeting, and I was watching it on Zoom, but there were so many people in the room and they seemed very frustrated, and it seemed that they didn't understand really what was going on and that they didn't have a voice in it. It was great that they got the voice, but we need to listen to them. And I think we don't do that enough. We just don't pay attention. I love good old-fashioned town meetings. I like conversation. I think it's the way to do things, and I know we can't always do that, and that's why we represent other people to do it. But sometimes it's important. I think it's important.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah. Now I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to let you look in that camera there and talk directly to the voters, and you can tell them about your goals, why they should vote for you, and ask for their vote. That's always important.
Okay. So I ran because I feel very passionate about the most vulnerable in our community, and I want to do something to help that situation. There is not a family that I know of that has not dealt with some kind of mental health or substance abuse issue. It's important. We need to get people back into the community and engaged, and that's why I'm running. But I'm also a small business owner, and I know what that looks like, and I know how difficult it is, especially throughout the pandemic. We've all struggled with that. And so I will pay attention to that. Mostly, I will pay attention to you. I will listen to what you have to say, and I will take that back. So I ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
And where can people learn more about you?
Oh, so I have a Facebook page. It's just Kelly Dycus for Magistrate. Please come join us. I ask questions on there a lot. And I provide information about all of our nonprofits and all of that stuff. So, my treasurer's here as well, and she's reminding me we're having a fundraiser on April 20th at Sid Lesher's. Thanks to Tim for allowing us to do that. It's going to be really fun. We're going to have music. Come eat and drink with us, and let's just have a conversation. You can ask me anything you want, and I'll be honest.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. I know our viewers appreciate hearing from you. And again, this is Kelly Dycus. She's the Democratic candidate for magistrate for the 3rd District in Franklin County. To our viewers, I want to remind you to get out and vote on Tuesday, May 17th, and then you can tune in to Cable 10 for live election returns. Can't believe it again, but it is election season, so it's time to get informed and then go voice your choice.
And make sure you're registered to vote.
That's right. We'll see you next time.